Rugby World Rankings, folks, after the second week of Autumn Nation Series fixtures and a bunch of fixtures outside the Autumn Nation Series, we have a new team at number one. The Boks are back. All Blacks are in number two. Ireland have lost their spot at the top for now. Can they get it back? Let's have a look at the possible permutations and the kind of changes from the most recent round of fixtures. You guys can let us know your thoughts. I've kind of ranked them on the board from 1 to 6 because those are the seeding spots for the next Rugby World Cup draw, which will be made, I think, about a year out from the next Rugby World Cup. So 6th spot is an important one to have, because if you get 6th or above, you're not going to meet any of those teams in 1 to 6. Whereas if you're 7th, you are definitely going to get drawn with one of these teams. So this is one of the kind of important parts of considering the actual practical application of the Rugby World Rankings rather than just the bragging rights of going up or down. So there is a practical application. What happened at the weekend? South Africa, as I said, reclaimed number one spot, up from second. They took 0.69 off the Scots in their victory at Murrayfield. However, that would not in itself have been enough to pass the Irish total if they had won. So the All Blacks and South Africans, in a way, the Southern Hemisphere generally, has worked hand in hand to see 1 and 2 spots go to Southern Hemisphere sides. Ireland's loss to the All Blacks means that the points gained from South Africa was enough for both sides to leapfrog Ireland. So Ireland drops to 3, having lost that point, or so 1.55 with their loss to the Kiwis. So All Blacks up 1.55 sees them jump from 3rd to 2nd, and the Boks 2nd to 1st. Ireland dropped to 3. So it's not that often that we see such a shift in the top 3 sides, but it has happened. 92.46, 91.21, 90.58. There's not a heck of a lot between these top 3 sides. There's a bit of a drop to France, who are on 86.96. They played the Japanese. They hammered them 52-12. But they got nothing from that game. I always mention it, but I'll mention it again. The way the world rankings work is if the gap between you and the team you're facing is too large, you can't take any points from them. And the gap between France and Japan is 86.96 down to 72.31. So more than 10 points. No points exchanged there, especially with the French being at home. Argentina are up. Scotland are up. Now, it may seem strange that Scotland are up because they didn't win. Argentina going up. They went up 1.3 with their big win over the Italians away from home. So them going up kind of makes sense. But you may ask, Scotland lost. They lost 0.69 points to the Boks. So how did they go up? Well, England lost more in their loss to the Aussies. So both sides dropped, but England dropped more than the Scots did. So the Scots are actually up into the Rugby World Cup top tier seeding spots, with England dropping out of those spots. England dropped a massive 1.81 with that big upset loss to the Aussies. That's the thing. When you lose to a side who is so significantly ranked below you, you lose more points. Just like you gain more points for the big upset wins, you don't get much for teams you're supposed to beat. And as I said, like with the France-Japan result, you don't get anything for the teams that are just so drastically different from you. So, yeah, England kind of plummeted like a little bit of a stone there. The Aussies are up from 9th into 8th with that 1.81 gain. And then Fiji also gained a point off the Welsh. So Fiji have kind of solidly established themselves in that you would call it the 7 to 12 spots, but you know, they used to be kind of around about 10th, so now they're 9th. They haven't dropped out of that kind of top 10 for quite some time. Italy have dropped to 10th, but there's still a vast gap between them and Wales. Wales's 10 losses in a row means that they are now closer to Georgia than they are to Italy in world rankings terms. Wales are on 75.04. Georgia's on 74.10. So there's only about 1 point between Georgia and Wales. Now, Georgia did play at the weekend. They played an All Blacks 15, but with that being a non-test match, no points exchanged for those results. But yes, Wales, some way to go to get themselves into the top 10 of Rugby World ranked sides at the moment. There were other results at the weekend. The Portuguese lost to the US, which was something of an upset. So they have lost some points. The US are up into 16th in the world rankings. Spain beat Uruguay. They are also up. And Tonga lost to Romania. So they are down in the kind of other action outside the top 10, but more in the top 20 of sides. Now, what are the possible permutations for this coming weekend? Are the Boks guaranteed to hold on to number 1? No. If they lose, they could drop number 1 spot in the world. If New Zealand were to win, they could potentially take it. But if both sides lose, then I don't think Ireland can take enough from their game against Argentina to reclaim number 1. Because Ireland's at home against the team which they are ranked a couple of points ahead of, 90.58 to 85.6. And remember, Ireland's at home, so they'll be scored at +3. So Ireland is going to gain very little from their match against Argentina. But yeah, the All Blacks can only get a number 1 spot if they win, and the Boks were to lose. The All Blacks could potentially drop to number 3 if they lose and Ireland win. There is also a small chance that France could leapfrog the Irish into 3rd spot. Ireland would need to lose their match against Argentina by 16 points or more, and France would need to beat the All Blacks by 16 or more. Otherwise, the gap between those two sides is just a bit vast. England could pass Scotland if they were to beat the Boks. Wales could only catch Italy if Italy were to lose to Georgia, because Italy would drop a fair few points with a home loss to the Georgians. But yes, that is the World Rankings after the second round. There's a whole lot of changes going on. That is what happens when both hemispheres are in action. You know, usually we get Rugby Championship, we get Six Nations when half the sides are static and everyone else just moves around them. But with everyone in action, we've genuinely seen some movings going on. What do you guys feel about the rankings of these top 18 sides, or at least like the top 6, the top 10? Do you think they're fairly evenly ranked? Do you see there's a big gap between the top 3 and everybody else? Should France, in your mind, be slightly closer than they are ranked to the sides like the All Blacks, like the Boks and the Irish? But remember, there's kind of 2 French sides. Their touring side tends to drop them some World Rankings points because they don't always play their big guns. Whether they take that into account, I don't know. I guess as long as they're in the top 6, they're probably not going to be too fussed. But anyway, you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.